Hey people, I was working on that movie I've been promising about Joseph when I run into this, so I scrapped it and I'm going to do this first. I think it's going to have a lot more that interests you. If you clicked on that last movie I made too soon, they didn't let you watch it, and I was talking about the Exxon. I had to go back and remove some copyright material before they'd play it. But I was comparing the Exxon to Jeff Foxworthy's "Here's your sign." Here's people dumb ought to wear a mark, the Exxon, and that's the flocks. That's the sheep. And so the Exxon isn't necessarily the Christian. The Exxon, you wear that X around your neck if you're a Christian, but it's on, and sometimes it's talking about the Muslims. It's anybody. It's always everybody that has their mark to let you know. So if they didn't let you watch it, I fixed it. You can watch it now. So all the scholars will tell you the first time you find the word Israel in the Bible is when Jacob wrestles with God and wins, and they don't know what they're talking about. They say it's first here in 28 when God says, "You're no longer Jacob, but your name is Israel because you have struggled." And so the word will be, this is where this SR and Israel come from, and this is where the AL comes from. SRAL. And he says because you fought and won, most Bibles. But that's when you read this with this mark, it reads backwards, and this is Lars, Lars, and then reads this way, the Lars is rule. And that's what Lars means, is laureled or victor. It means you fought and won. It means you took it. It's where your word larceny comes from. So Larses, Larsis, backwards, Larses rule. The thieves' rule is what it means. And so the thieves' rule is if you can beat them, you could take it. Larses rule. And this is way up here in Genesis 32, but the first time it talks about Israel is in Genesis 13. And they had to change this because it tells a whole different story about where Israel was located. But if you were reading this in Egyptian, when you've seen these three M's come together, it's no longer an M, it's an N, N-U. That's this here, the three waters. The three N's are pronounced new, but three M's are also pronounced new. And this first word, they're saying this is vio. They're saying it's a conjunctive of via, and they say it means to see. And, vi, who, see of. And they'll tell you a viol is the ancient instrument before the violin, but that's not what it means. That's just it's a hieroglyph to gives these four letters, the VIOL. You just draw the ancient violin, and it doesn't mean a musical instrument. It means viol. It means the rape. It's where your word violate come from. And this is also where they force this meaning on musharium. This is where your word music, M-U-S, comes from, or sung. The viol over mu, nu, sharium. But what this says is vio, and vio means more, they'll say, it means more to come. And via is the way, and vio is here, and now you see it. And vio, the lover, L-A-V-R, the lover, a new charium. And a new charium, a via lover nucharium, to see the lover a new cherry from. So they were going to Egypt to get young wives at the via lover nucharium. Who of as took, T-U-U-K, the took, and then L, and you see the mark, tells you to read this backwards, Lars, L-R-S, the Lars, and then back this way, as rule, R, and the mark says read it backwards, the rule, the Lars is rule. He went up to Abraham to Egypt, and he and his wife and all that he had, they took all is what it means. Via lover nucharium. Who of as took Lars as the rule. And so you see in this same chapter that they give dimensions of Israel again. And this Negev, this is what they'll say is the south border. And this mad here, this isn't very, it's only very if there's two of them, mad, then it's very mad. So to see a lover new cherium, who of as took Lars as rule, and will with them when, W-E-N, when give, a waiver from, underage, and you got a waiver, W-A-V-R. There is no Abram, that's a waiver, a waverum. And covet, because wanton, the covet, mad. In making the bucks, and Abraham was rich, very rich. And the waiver from covetum had in making them the bucks, BKS. And they made the bucks in the pub, in the pubs of, it was selling beer. And so there is no Abram. Most of the time you see this word, the following word ends with a L, and it's always the lover. You see it often, followed by the A-T with the mark, at mooring of her. And that's when you bring in the ship, at mooring of her, and why fuck of her, and, all of her, and who call of her. But none of this is about people, it's all about the heavens, and to the vital. And the vital, you see it on the first page of the Bible, the vital is the space between. To fill that empty space in your gut, you got to get some victuals. And then down here at the end, and God says, look up. Lift your eyes and look from the place where you are there, north, south, east, and west. The spoon, the Big Dipper, up there at the north, pointing at the north, the spoon, and when give in the southern border, and fed me. Everything comes up from the east, and home. And I don't see this often as Western. They say it means the Mediterranean, Red Sea, Dead Sea, Sea of Galilee, the mighty river Nile. So they're saying it only means Western if you're on the east side of a body of water. And them come as ratesome. It's spoon when give, who fed me whom. And for all the land of which you see to you, I give, and your descendants even to ever. And so it describes these borders again to Jacob, but that ain't what this is talking about. This is talking about in Egypt. And in the last line, it's not as easy to see here, but you can see it plainly in the Greek. And you can see on that first line, it's on or of a bed, have ramitz, say gift to. It's say gift, a gift of. Egypt is the gift. And that's what he's talking about is down at the bottom here. And oppose kenosis. Gnosis is moving. Nesis, telekinesis, moving from a distance. And to oppose moving. He wasn't moving his tent, he was against moving. And apokinesis of Ra melting, of the sun melting. And this looks like a play on the word Ramadan. You see it has all the different spellings, Ramazan, Ramadan, Ramathon, and the TH and the D are the same letter. And it's the Muslim Easter. It's the beginning of the new moon. And the word, derives from the root Ramad, means scorching heat, the melt, intensely hot. And oppose moving of Ramadan, according to catch the separate on. Draunt on, to draw, D-R-U-N-T, to draw it on. The member, to member. You see, there's no B in the Hebrew. It's just mammer. To member is something you know, and if you forget it, when you remember, you again know it. The memory having, it's ever on. It's ever on, never changing. A codum has in the lay, to see the astery on, to carry. And so what this is talking about is that the layout of Egypt. The code is in the layout, the lay of Cairo. Cairo is laid out to show the stars of Orion too. And you see it better here in the Septuagint. It's got a little different spelling here, but it's to member on, the member on. And oppose kenosis of Ra, melt on, cut to keys in, and this is a different word here, and it's para, it's like parallel, the same over, in para, and it appear is where it comes from. It looks like the draught on, the member in. They had that N over here, the member in, he of in, it's ever on. And a codum is in the lay, to see a stereon carry. And so everybody knows that the layout in Egypt represents the stars of Orion's belt, which is also, Jacob's staff, this Rigel, the foot, and Betelgeuse in the belt. And this is how it's laid out. And if you look back this way, you see where the Sphinx is, which was once a dog, and Mizraim is what's under the left paw. And you can see the R and the Z backwards, and it's because when you read that word Mizraim backwards, it becomes the star of the left paw. And you have the three great pyramids here, and you look down the line, you see the Sphinx down there, and there's Egypt right there, the left paw of the Sphinx. And he built, and it's ever on, and a codum has in. And he built, a codum has in the lay. The E after the K makes it an L, the lay. And that's what, why a key means here in Spanish, a key, here, and it means here. But then with the E following, it means the lay, how it was laid out. The lay, to see the astery, the stars on, to Cairo. And so this Greek is just like the Hebrew. It has several meanings, and you see it better in the Septuagint. You can see all the extra markings that they left out in there, because it reads a couple different ways. It says many things. But this is the word I was looking at when I run into this, and this is the closest word to Hebrew in the Bible, the HBRU. Closest thing they got to Hebrew. What they say is Hebrew is Brit. And the same as the spelling of the Hebrew language today. It's a O-V-R-I-T, of writ. The same thing as the covenant, to see in writ, in the covenant. And it means, over, O-V-R-I-T. You'll see all through the Hebrew book, when it says O-V-R, they say it means to pass over, and over it. They were never slaves. They were over it. And so the A-E is the E-S. And it's why is, meaning who is. And who is the lover. And mui, much in. Who's babble? Who's babbling? That's the language of Egypt. And some people knew how to read Babel, and some people called it Babel because they couldn't understand it. But there's a lot of babble in here, and you see it when words double up. And it came from the old Egyptian writing, where they often use a symbol, and this symbol has a three-letter meaning. It's a SBK, Sebek, and it'll come, they'll always just pronounce one, SBK. They won't pronounce them both, but it's coming from the word before, which probably was his, H-I-S, B-K, S, his bucks, and then BK. is bucksin, and then the K is probably something following after, as in give, is bucksgive. And so that was the babble. People were saying sabuk sabuk. That was babble. That was people that didn't understand how that read. And it's in most every line of the Hebrew too. You got to slow down to see it. Sometimes it's be the same exact word, and they'll always give the first one very. And sometimes you have to step back to see it because it'll be blended between the words. And it's all poetry. It all raps and rhymes. You see it here as shall indeed you reign. You know, it's the same word. It's the EMLK, the milk, and TMLK, to milk, the milk to milk. Or shall indeed come, the VU on VU, the same word number. And they just changing the first letter here. And it shows up best in this trop. You know, without a doubt is torn into pieces. And this is when Joseph's brothers done sold him into slavery, and they brought his coat back and dipped it in the blood, you know, and the wild has devoured him, trop. And so this is where a bunch of words come from. You know, the T is the D, but this is where your word, and with, WTH, with rapture, and also ripped, and you can see a couple other words in there having the same meaning. And I'll hit this in that movie on Joseph, because it turns into a whole bunch of meanings. So you got here, you know, why is a love, the lover muy, much in, the lover much in, and the A is reading with this V over here of, the much in of is, much in of is. And it's because, you know, no genius poet's going to keep repeating himself with this Y. And why is lover muy in of is, much in of is. Babble, the babbling memor. And the double A in the Egyptian, you know, becomes the Y. You see a feather is an A and two feathers is the Y. And the memories are in. Ever when, who been, and then backwards from same. They say this is the name all the time. From same, and then, you know, the double M is turning that to a I. From same is bitch. From the name is bitch. Liwy. And so the bitch, you know, that comes from the altar. Whoever getting up on the altar, you're fixing to get, you know, from, cut, in, divide. You know, whoever goes up on the altar is fixing to get cut up. That's a bitch. From his bitch. And from his bitch, a lie, L-I-E, the lie we. Or the lie have. Who is lover muy in of is babbling. The memorer is in ever when. Who benham some is bitch lie have. And so the story is underneath, you know, but on top, you know, it's the vial of her new cherry. You know, they went to get a new cherry from the new cherrium. You know, they have to have a virgin for the altar, you know, to be from cut and divide. You know, who benham some is bitch. A lie, you know, to lie there. To lie have. And so that's the story on the top, but underneath it, it's talking about the lie of the pyramids and the meaning of it. And so when I was reading this last night, what I was seeing was it was talking about the age here somewhere. And so all that set up in Egypt is all to remember, you know, when the stars, where they're at, when the coming of the age is what it's talking about. And I think it's just in this last several lines, 14 to 18 here. And I'm going to read that again and see if I can find it. If I can, I'll make a movie on just that. And when I read this heading, that lets me know that's exactly where I found it. You know, God renews the promise. And hopefully I'll find this word for promise in here, because I'm sure it's the age. The renews the age.
Don't forget. Hooty hoot, hooty hoot. I won't forget.
Alright, I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.